did any change result? And if yes, what kind of changes did you make, and how did the board engage in those decisions?
Well, I think just again thinking about that question the last few days, and you can follow on, Jacinta, if there's anything that particularly springs to mind for you. But there would be three things that I would point to as examples. Maybe one of the things where we had, going back a few years, had noted a challenge was around our board meeting agendas being too full of operational details.
Okay.
And not having enough time for strategic considerations. Now, the last in the time of the previous chairperson and myself as deputy chairperson, and Jacinta having joined the board at that time as well, we did put some effort into restructuring our agendas, and not only the agendas and their timings, and but also the kind of supporting documentation that would be presented to the board by the CEO. We introduced permanent, on every agenda, a time slot for discussing items of strategic importance, to make sure that we wouldn't lose sight of that. We also then introduced, at the suggestion of one of our other board members, who's a senior HR manager in a large corporate over here, introduced a few minutes at the start of every agenda just to reflect on some case studies that were given descriptions of by our CEO. And we look at usually about two case studies of basically the lives of people with MS, every single board agenda. So we would be just getting and leaving it really mostly to the CEO to source those for us. I think there was one recently where we have a team of bloggers who write stuff for us on social media platforms, and we thought we'd take an insight from one of those, one of our more recent board meetings. But in general, the CEO will tell us, and she'll solicit those from our community workers, so we get stories of people with them, their real lives and the lived experience, and warts and all really of people with MS. To start our board meetings with. So that really focuses us back on what Jacinta's point was about, not getting sucked into just spending all our time with the corporate governance side of things and the finance and everything, but really reflecting all the time on who we're there to. Role and responsibility of board members in relation to fundraising. That was mentioned as one of the more challenging areas or subtopics for us a few years ago as well. This, I suppose, I don't know, do I need to explain maybe the difference, the attitude to the voluntary sector and boards and fundraising? And it's quite a different culture over here in Ireland than it may be over in the United States or Canada. There is certainly people don't get invited onto the boards while at the same time being asked to write a check or expected to make large donations or anything like that. That's not typically part of the culture here in Ireland, and it's certainly not within MS Ireland. But at the same time, on the flip side of that was that there was quite a lack of clarity around, and it just wasn't clear what expectation the organisation had of our board members in relation to fundraising, and therefore it has led to a bit of confusion, I suppose. So we did, the previous chairperson did draft up a paper setting out what expectations there might be, and that was discussed and agreed by the board. And really, I suppose the best way of it's also, by the way, circulated to prior to anybody joining the board to all nominees for board membership, so they would know up front where we stand as a board on this. It really sets out, I suppose, a menu of possible levels of involvement. We'd be quite happy for board members if they wish to make donations directly themselves, or some board members might do that from time to time. Others might just wish to sit in the background and maybe support our fundraising activities and promote them through their own social media channels or through their professional connections wherever they may be working. Or some of them may, agree to actually, take part in fundraising challenges. Is something, small and easy from the kind of thing that's come along in recent years, like Facebook fundraiser, personal Facebook fundraisers, to being part of maybe large fundraising corporate type style events, whatever. So there's basically this document which we agreed around the board table it kind of sets out the possibilities for participation and or support of our fundraising activities. So it clarifies the thing. I don't think it's not pushing any board member in any particular direction in relation to support or involvement in fundraising. And I don't think it particularly changes our culture either, but I think it has clarified the position. And it's probably, like a lot of things, it's probably a bit of a compromise, but it did achieve a certain effect. Another one more recently, which Jacinta was very centrally involved in, was putting in place our current 2020 to 2024 strategic plan. Okay. Now, we did have a previous strategic plan, but I think the big improvement with this one is that we have not just put it in place, but and identified its key objectives and initiatives, but we've also made sure and tried progressively to work on ensuring that reporting to the board and all the rest is done directly aligned with that, and that we try and make sure that whatever we are doing is aligned with our strategic priorities, so we don't just drift off into doing things because somebody thinks it's an urgent priority or something that we should be doing or we haven't done before.